सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ श्री गणेशाय नमः। ॐ श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं परमानन्दमाधवम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। While answering a very important and pertinent question of how to discriminate between the self and the not self, the Guru in the text, Bhagavan Shri Adi Shankaracharya ji himself, is elaborating on Panchakosha. So Panchakosha, the 5 sheaths which appear to be the self but are actually part of not self, are explained now. So Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya we have seen. VijñānaMāyāḥ kosha we saw in the last session. What is VijñānaMāyāḥ kosha? Buddhi, intellect, and the 5 organs of perception, Pancha Jnanendriya, together is called as VijñānaMāyāḥ kosha. Now the question is, all other koshas are named Pranamaya kosha because pranas are involved, Manomaya kosha because mana is there. Why it is not called as Buddhimaya kosha? Why is it called as VijñānaMāyāḥ kosha? Because it has got a capacity to know. How it has got capacity to know? Because of the reflection of consciousness. Anuvrajat chit pratibimba shaktihi. It is always along with chit pratibimba shakti, the power of reflection of consciousness. It's always united with that. So in the entire subtle instrument, the consciousness is getting reflected, but that portion where the consciousness gets reflected is called as ahankara. This ahankara and chidabhasa, they are always together. One cannot be without the other. And this ahankara being part of VijñānaMāyāḥ kosha, this kosha has capacity to know. That is why it is called VijñānaMāyāḥ kosha. It's a modification of knowledge. Intellectual sheath. Now, very important point we have to note here is, in Manomaya kosha we said mind and the 5 organs of perception. And when we said mind, we understood memory. Now here we are saying in VijñānaMāyāḥ kosha intellect and 5 organs of perception, where with intellect we are understanding ahankara, ego also. So mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, together the antakarana chatushtaya is over. Right? So mana and chitta are part of manomaya kosha, buddhi and ahankara are part of vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha. We also saw the difference between all our thoughts, but based on what kinds of thoughts they are, we are segregating, dividing them into mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. They are all thoughts. Right? Now, this vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha, please carefully note one important point here, is also an instrument and is also the doer, which is not true for annamaya, pranamaya and manomaya. So far, the three koshas that we have seen are only instruments. The body is an instrument alone. Pranas are instrument. Mind is an instrument. But this vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha is instrument and also the doer. Why instrument? Because as intellect and five organs of perception, it is an instrument. Organs of perception, jnanendriyas are instruments only. Isn't it? Intellect is an instrument. But because it also has ahankara aspect in it, careful, therefore it is also a doer. This vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha is where the consciousness meets matter. Not actually, appears to meet. Why? Because of reflection of consciousness. So it is an inert matter because intellect is inert. Organs of perception are inert. Ahankara is also technically inert. But because that ahankara is always associated with reflection of consciousness, it appears to be sentient. So vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha is the factor because of which the remaining three instruments, annamaya, pranamaya, manomaya, also appear to be sentient. The body is moving. How? Does the body have capacity to move by itself? No, it does not have. Is it the doer? No, it is not. Pranas are functioning. How can they function? The inert cannot work on its own. Mind is thinking. How? These three instruments are functioning. Now you add to it buddhi also. All of them are functioning because there is ahankara which is always with reflection of consciousness. If you remember BMI chart of Pujya Gurudev, Om, Paramatma, Parabrahma, V, Vasanas, then BMI, Body, Mind, Intellect, then PFT, Perceiver, Feeler, Thinker, and OET, Objects, Emotions and Thoughts. Now in this BMI chart, we had said that BMI are instruments. Correct? OET, the last row, is the world. And in between these two, there is PFT, which is the jiva, individual. Correct? Correct. Now, B, annamaya kosha. M, manomaya kosha. I, vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha. But even that PFT is vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha. Why? Because it is the ahankara. It is the doer. It is the perceiver, feeler, thinker, doer, knower, enjoyer. This vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha, the aspect of vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha which is ahankara itself is this PFT, is this individual jiva. This is an important point to note. See, generally when koshas are explained, majority of the places this vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha will be explained as buddhi. And of course along with organs of perception, but that is just for buddhi to take decision, that's it. Now when it is explained as buddhi, it is an instrument. Here Shankaracharya ji takes a further step and explains vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha as ahankara also. And therefore, it is no more just an instrument, but it is also the doer who uses these instruments. Is that point clear? Very important. Okay. Other places you will not see such kind of explanation. For example, you've studied Tattvabodha, etc. This kind of explanation is not there. It is just all the 5 koshas are explained as instruments. Why? Because that's the basic understanding that one must have. But now we have progressed to the next level, therefore this extra understanding is given. As buddhi, it is an instrument. As ahankara, it is also the doer who uses those instruments. Okay, clear? That is what was explained. Anādikāloyam ayam aham svabhavah jīvah samasta vyavahara vodha. This jiva also is part of this vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha as ahankara. Karoti karmāṇyapi purvavāsanaha, and along with according to purvavasanas, according to the old impressions, previous impressions, performs actions, punyani apunyani, the good actions and bad actions, cha tat phalani, and also the enjoyer of results of those actions, right? And how does he enjoy? He is the one. This jiva is the one who is going through all the experiences. Bhunkte vichitrasu api yonishu vrajan, going in different wombs, experiences different things. Ayati niryati, goes and comes. Adhaha urdhvam, down and up and down, goes and comes. Who is that? That is this jiva. Asya eva vijñānamayasya jagrat swapnādi avasthaha. All different kinds of states are for him. For him means what? He is the one who is going through the 3 stages. See, this jiva only becomes the waker, dreamer and deep sleeper, and experiences the waking, dream and deep sleep world. Isn't it? It is this vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha. So when it is said that vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha goes through all these things, means what? We are referring to ahankara, the doer, part of vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha, right? Then we saw the last verse, 188. Dehādinishthā shrama dharma karma gunabhimanas satatam mama iti vijñānakosho ayamati prakāṣah prakrishta sannidhyavasātparātmanah ataha bhavati yeshaha upādhirasya yadatmadhihi samsarati brahmena. This ahankara does what? Now this ahankara goes further. This PFT, this jiva, what does it do? It identifies with BMI. So, though this BMI is its instruments, it also says that I am this. See? Isn't it? Body, mind, intellect is mine because they are my instruments. But then because of identification, it says it is me. I am the body. And therefore, I am short, I am tall, I am fat, I am lean. See, what has happened? The instrument is considered to be myself. Who is doing this? This is also done by ahankara. So, who performs the actions using the instruments? Ahankara. Who considers that instruments to be itself? Ahankara. That is also done by ahankara alone. And mama means mine, and also aham. This kind of identification it creates with this BMI, with annamaya, pranamaya and manomaya, vijñānaMāyāḥ also. That is what it does. And why does it do that? Because that is its svabhava. And then, because it is also associated with reflection of consciousness, it also illumines them. Prakrishta sannidhyavasātparātmana. Because of its close proximity with the self, it gets reflection of consciousness, and because of which it is ati prakāṣah, it is extremely radiant. And that is why the term vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha. It is capacity to know, right? This vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha is also upādhi of the Atman, of the jiva. It is upādhi means what? That is also not me. It is a conditioning. Upādhi, it's a conditioning. It's also kosha. Kosha means which is not me, which is covering me. It's not me. Right? Yadatmadhihi, because of identification with this upādhi also, with buddhi also, samsarati brahmena, being deluded, the jiva transmigrates. Jiva continues to go from one birth to another, one experience to another, one state to another. That is what happens. Okay. Clear now? So far we have seen in each kosha, Shankaracharya explained the kosha and then gave reasons why I am not this. Remember, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya we have seen. Now vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha, Shankaracharya takes special care. Why? Because one thing is I have to understand that I am not the intellect. And second thing, I also have to understand that I am not the jiva. Because jiva is also part of vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha, ahankara, which is more deeper understanding of us. See, I feel that I am body, but somewhere back of the mind, we also know that I am something more than the body. I am not just body, isn't it? That understanding is there. We know it. I know, I feel that I am the mind, but I know I am something more than mind. I am intellect, I feel, and therefore I say I am not understanding today anything. I don't know what Vijay started talking today. I thought it is simple topic going on vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha, but there's something. So I feel that I am intellect, but at the same time, I also know that I am something more than that. But our understanding stops where I think that I am jiva. I don't think that I am more than that. At any point of time did we feel? For body, yes, we felt. Therefore somebody, when judges you just by body, you are going somewhere and they say, "Arey, tu bachcha hai, chal, you are a small child, go and do your work." Then you feel very insulted. My body may be small, but I understand everything. What do you mean? Why? Because I know that I am more than just body. When somebody judges you or finds you, emotional, then you say, no, I am more than that. Isn't it? Somebody just understands your intellect, is a very clever person. But I am not just a clever student, I am a human being. So, our understanding goes up to this jīvabhāva, this individual. This individual who has body, mind, intellect. But after that, we are not able to process. So Shankaracharya here explains that please understand, oh my dear, even this jiva, you are not. You are not this jiva. Of course, you are not the body. Many reasons were given. That body ends, body is known, etc., etc. Prāṇa, manomaya. For everything, different reasons were given. Those same reasons you can apply to understand that I am not the buddhi, I am not the intellect. But understanding is what required here. I am not this ahankara or jiva. So here now Shankaracharya, what he does is, he explains how the self is different from this jiva. He is not giving reasons why I am not the intellect. He says that you can understand on your own. Let me explain to you that the self is different from jiva. And how does he do? In a beautiful way. Let us read verse number 189. Yoyam vijñānaMāyāḥ prāṇeṣu hṛdi sphuratyayaṃ jyotiḥ kūṭasthaḥ sannātmā kartā bhoktā bhavatyupādhisthaḥ yoyam vijñānaMāyāḥ prāṇeṣu hṛdi sphuratyayaṃ jyotiḥ kūṭasthaḥ sannātmā kartā bhoktā bhavatyupādhisthaḥ. Now here Shankaracharya explaining the nature of the self and how this self appears as the jiva, not actually becoming jiva, but appearing as jiva. So, see here, yah ayam. This yah ayam, actually both mean the same. Yah means one who, ayam means this. So yah also means this, ayam also means this. So when such kind of usage you will find in Kavya, Shastra, etc., we have to understand that the author is trying to explain something different. Means what? What was explained so far, vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha, now leave it. Now yah ayam, but this one. Who is this? He uses the same word, vijñānaMāyāḥ. But here, the meaning of the word vijñānaMāyāḥ means what? Not modification, but it is full of consciousness. We are describing self here. Shankaracharya is explaining the self here. So here vijñānaMāyāḥ means what? That which is full of knowledge, K capital, full of consciousness. Yah ayam vijñānaMāyāḥ. This vijñāna, it is not a vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha. We had seen at the beginning of this kosha concept that mayat pratyaya, annamaya, prāṇamaya, manomaya, vijñānaMāyāḥ, ānandamaya. In the kosha concept, that maya is in the meaning of modification of prachura. Not prachura. It is in the meaning of vikararthe, not in the meaning of prachura. Prachura means what? Full of. Chinmayaḥ. Chinmayaḥ means full of consciousness. So kosha concept was not explained as full of. In the kosha concept, that maya was used as modification of. But here in this verse, vijñānaMāyāḥ is full of vijñāna consciousness. Chinmayaḥ, vijñānaMāyāḥ, same meaning. Yah ayam vijñānaMāyāḥ. But this self which is full of consciousness, which is absolute knowledge with K capital, this ayam jyotiḥ, last two words of the first line. This light, jyoti, self-effulgent consciousness, prāṇeṣu, hṛdi, sphuratyayaṃ. It shines in one's own heart amidst all the prāṇas. Yah ayam vijñānaMāyāḥ. This consciousness, this self, which is self-luminous, shines in each and every heart amidst all the prāṇas. Now this self, kūṭasthaḥ san, though being kūṭasthaḥ. Kūṭasthaḥ means what? Immutable, unchangeable. Kūṭasthaḥ nitya, remember we had seen pravahi nitya and kūṭasthaḥ nitya. Kūṭasthaḥ nitya means that which does not change at all, like the anvil of the ironsmith. You remember that huge piece of iron, keeping on which he gives shape to another iron. Like that anvil, the one that doesn't change. This self is like that anvil. Kūṭavat tisthati, that which stays like an anvil, unchanging. This self, though being kūṭasthaḥ, though unchanging, atma, this self, kartā bhoktā bhavati. But it appears to be doer, kartā, enjoyer, bhoktā. How? Upādhisaṃ. When associated with upadhis. By itself, it does not do anything. It is unchanging, single mass of consciousness. But when associated, identified with upadhis, BMI, it appears to be kartā, bhoktā, doer, enjoyer, etc. Getting it? So I am not kartā, bhoktā. I am not that jiva. I am that self which is unchanging but appears to be doer and enjoyer. Okay? I am not jiva, I am the self. I am not the jiva that is transmigrating, going through samsara, going through different embodiments, going through different states, going through different experiences. I am not that. I am the self. But when associated with, identified with upadhis, I appear to be jiva. I appear to be going through all these experiences in different births, in different states, etc. Okay, so I am not the jiva, I am the self. Right? Now this self in association with upadhis becomes jiva. Becomes means appears to have become jiva. That is what he continues in the next verse, verse number 190. Let us read. Svayaṃ paricchedamupetya buddheḥ tādātmyadoṣeṇa paraṃ mṛṣātmanaḥ sarvātmakaḥ sannapi vīkṣate svayaṃ svataḥ pṛthaktvena mṛdo ghaṭāniva. Svayaṃ paricchedamupetya buddheḥ tādātmyadoṣeṇa paraṃ mṛṣātmanaḥ sarvātmakaḥ sannapi vīkṣate svayaṃ svataḥ pṛthaktvena mṛdo ghaṭāniva. Swayam, it itself, the self itself, buddheḥ paricchedamupetya, assuming upetya, paricchedam, limitation, buddheḥ, of the intellect, means what? That self which is unlimited, infinite, when identifies with buddhi, finds itself limited. Why? Because the buddhi is limited. We have freedom to go anywhere. Okay. But then what happens? Then suddenly one pandemic comes, corona comes, and then we are limited in our house. Isn't it? Now, actually speaking, we can go everywhere. But do we? No. We are limited. We can go anywhere inside the house during the lockdown. Isn't it? Now that limitation is why? Because we have assumed that role of a good citizen. And therefore what? Then we cannot go more than that. What is our potential? Potentially we can go anywhere, but now we are limited. The self is all pervasive, but because of its association with buddhi, it is limited. Why? Because the buddhi is limited. So, swayam, it itself, buddheḥ paricchedamupetya, assuming the limitations of the intellect, mṛṣātmanaḥ. Tādātmyadoṣeṇa, because of the fault of identification. Because you have identified with the intellect, therefore you are feeling that you are limited. Actually you are not limited. You have tied down yourself. Many times we go to this railway station and airport, etc. and you must have seen that there are these charging ports. Charging ports will be there. So, though you have freedom to go anywhere, but those people who want to charge the phone and use the phone at the same time, you will see that they are connected there and they are just there. They cannot go everywhere else. Why? Tied down there. Limited. Technically they can go, but they cannot leave the phone and go. Attachment. Tādātmyadoṣeṇa, identification is there, and therefore what do we see? That we see that the person is there. Person who has capacity to go anywhere is limited. Why? Because of the limitation of the wire. As far as the wire can go, you can go. Similarly, this self tādātmyadoṣeṇa, because of the fault of identification. And interestingly, mṛṣātmanaḥ. It's not even a real fault. It's actually you are not tied also. You think that you are tied. Because of that, paraṃ, atmanaḥ, of the self, paraṃ means entirely, he forgets everything. Entirely limited. Identifying with this body, I have got limitation. What? I can only walk 100, 200 steps. After that, I have to sit. Now, do I have to sit? No. But the body has to sit. And because I am identified with the body, I say I have to sit. Vijji, today's class, no? Not understanding anything. You see, tied by intellect. Actually, you cannot say that you cannot understand anything. You are not this. But the intellect has got its own limited capacity. And therefore, the moment it goes beyond that, you say, I am not understanding anything. You can understand everything in the world at this point itself. But the limitation of intellect and your identification with that intellect makes you feel that you cannot understand. Are you getting the point? The self which is all pervasive, because of its identification, tādātmya, with buddhi, it becomes limited. It feels that it is limited. Paricchedam. So, jiva is limited. Understand it like this. Jiva is limited. Ishvara is unlimited. The self is beyond the concept of limited and unlimited. Infinite. Jiva is limited. Why? Because it is associated with and identified with one set of upadhis. One body, one mind, one intellect. Now that body has whatever capacity, mind has whatever capacity, intellect has whatever capacity. To that capacity it is limited. See, the bulb is there. If the bulb is of 5 watt, then it will only give that much light. If the bulb is of 500 watt, it will give that much light. But is electricity in any kind of limitation? No, actually it is not. But when that electricity is passing through 5 watt bulb, it is limited to that much light. The same electricity when passes through 500 watt bulb, it will give much more light. That is the limitation of the bulb and not the electricity. It is the limitation of the instrument and not the consciousness. And I am the consciousness and not the instrument. Therefore, I am not limited. I am not jiva. I am that consciousness. Right? Now this consciousness, sarvātmakaḥ sannapi, though being the self of all, svayaṃ svataḥ pṛthaktvena vīkṣate. It sees itself to be different. See, very interesting. I am seeing so many of you in the TV here, isn't it? Whom am I seeing? I am seeing myself as different from me. Why? Because the self in me is the same self in all. Sarvātmakaḥ. It is the one self in all. But because of this identification, it sees itself to be different from itself. Svayaṃ svataḥ pṛthaktvena vīkṣate. It sees like that. Like what? mṛdo ghaṭāniva. Like different parts are seen to be different from the mud. Like the pots are seen to be different from the mud. Are they different from the mud? No, they are mud only. In a different name and shape and form. They are mud. But they are seen to be different from the mud. Similarly, we see every individual different from the self. Why? Because of identification with one set of upadhis. I am identified with my body, my mind, my intellect, and therefore I feel that you all are different from me. Actually, you all, me only. but I see difference in myself because of this identification. So because of this tādātmya, this is what happens. Okay, but actually, have I divided myself and created so many jivas? No. The self has not undergone any change. Self is still same self. Imagine you enter a place which is filled with hundreds of mirrors all around you. The moment you have entered, there are 100 yous. You. 100. Each one you will see different. It looks similar, but the reflection is different. But have I undergone any change? When I am being reflected in 100 mirrors, have I undergone any change? No. In the same way, that one self when manifests through so many different individuals, jivas, the self has not changed. It appears to have changed and it appears that it is different because of its identification with intellect, with the upadhis. Right? That is what he says and concludes the topic. 191 verse number. Let us read what is he saying. upādhisaṃbandhavaśātparātmā hyupādhidharmān anubhāti tadguṇah ayo vikārān avikārivannivat sadaikarūpo'pi parasvabhāvāt upādhisaṃbandhavaśātparātmā hyupādhidharmān anubhāti tadguṇah ayo vikārān avikārivannivat sadaikarūpo'pi parasvabhāvāt. upādhisaṃbandhavaśāt, because of its connection, sambandha, relation with upadhis, with the conditionings, parātmā, that supreme self, he indeed upādhidharmān anubhāti. It appears as having the dharma, the characteristics of upadhis. Parātmā, supreme self, doesn't have any characteristics. But how does it feel that it has characteristics? Because it has associated itself with upadhis. So the qualities of upadhis have come to it. We have seen this earlier, adhyasa concept, remember? Upadhi, the word upadhi itself means what? Upa samipe sthitva sviyan gunan anyatra adadati. Upa, that which stays near and throws its characteristics on the other. Isn't it? Example we had seen, there is a crystal and then there is cloth, blue cloth, red cloth near to that crystal, and the crystal which is actually colorless appears to be blue or red. Why? Because of its association with the upadhi of cloth. Similarly, because of the association with body, mind, intellect, the upadhis, upadhi dharman, the characteristics of those upadhis, anubhati, it says that it is my characteristics. Tadgunaha, it becomes one with them. Upadhis means what? When the body is short, I say I am short. When the body is tall, I say I am tall. The short, tall, thin, lean, young, old, these are characteristics of the body which are taken on oneself because of the association. Getting it? Like what? Ayo vikārān avikārivannivat. Beautiful example that we had seen in Atma Bodha also. Ayo vikārān, the different modifications or the characteristics of ayas means iron, are taken by vanni, fire, which is avikari, which does not have any characteristic or modification. So the fire which itself has nothing, no such characteristics, takes the characteristics of iron. This example we had seen of red hot iron ball. Remember red hot iron ball? Yes. What is red hot iron ball? The iron which is in a spherical shape, which has got weight, comes in contact with fire which is hot and red. And together, when they come in contact with each other, they transfer properties of each other. And then we have red hot iron ball. Now what has happened here? The fire actually doesn't have any shape. Have you seen any shape for the fire? No, fire is changing continuously. Fire doesn't have any weight. But because of the association with that iron ball, it gets a spherical shape and it has got weight. These are the characteristics of the iron ball actually, which are transferred to the fire. Isn't it? Water by itself doesn't have a shape. You put it in a glass, it takes the shape of the glass. Put it in another container, it will take the shape of that. Why? Because of association. The characteristic of the vessel, the shape, comes to the water. And then you put it in fridge and you will have ice with the same form now. Isn't it? In the same way, sadaikarūpo'pi, though it is always of one nature, parasvabhavat, because of it being supreme, it appears to have taken the characteristics of the upadhis. Why? Upādhisaṃbandhavaśātparātmā. Because of its association with those upadhis. So the self, though doesn't have any of those characteristics, qualities, modifications, appears to have got those characteristics and modifications because of the contact with upadhis. So upadhis, whatever modification they have, the jiva also feels that it is his modification. Whatever are the characteristics of upadhis, jiva considers itself as having those qualities, as having those characteristics. Okay, what to remember in this? I am not the jiva. Therefore, I have no connection with the world or with the BMI. And therefore, the characteristics of body, mind, intellect are not mine. Which I am not able to understand. It's okay because you are not the one who is understanding. I can't sit for a long time. It's okay because you are not the one who is sitting. I am very emotional. It's okay because you are not the one who is emotional. Your intellect is not able to understand. Your body is not able to sit. Your mind is emotional. And actually speaking, these all are not yours. You are not the jiva. You are the self. Okay. So the topic is over. Actually. Now what? Now vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha is over. Actually, what should happen? Annamaya, pranamaya, manomaya, vijñānaMāyāḥ, anandamaya kosha should start. But before we start anandamaya kosha, here the student is raising one doubt. See, it's a conversation, isn't it? So Shishya uvacha, the student is raising one doubt. What doubt student is raising? Very interesting doubt. He says that you have explained me so much. Now I have one doubt. Important to know that before we proceed. What kind of doubt? Let us read verse number 192. Shishya uvacha, the student is saying, Bhrameṇāpyanyatha vastu Bhrameṇāpyanyatha vastu jīvabhāvo'pi parātmanah. Tadupādheranādittvāt nānādirnāṣa ishyate. Next verse also. Ato'sya jīvabhāvo'pi nityā bhavati samsritihi. Na nivarteta tanmokṣah katham me Shri Guro vada. Bhrameṇāpyanyatha vāstu jīvabhāvo'pi parātmanah tadupādheranādittvāt nānādirnāṣa ishyate. Ato'sya jīvabhāvo'pi nityā bhavati samsritihi na nivarteta tanmokṣah katham me Shri Guro vada. Oh dear teacher, please tell me what? Bhramena, because of delusion, api anyathava, or by any other reason, jīvabhāvo'pi parātmanah. This Parātmā, the Supreme Self, has got jīvabhāva. So the Supreme Self has somehow come to feel that it is individual. By delusion or by any other reason, that's not my question. My question is, this Supreme Self which has come to feel that it is jīvabhāva, it is jīva, this jīva is anādi. Isn't it? You have been telling me jīva is anādi. In that verse also we saw jīva īśo viṣuddhāchit tatha jīveshayor vidha avidya tacchitor yoga shadasmakam anādaya. First itself is jīva. So jīva is anādi. Now you have put that jīva in vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha. Isn't it? Ahankara is in vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha. Which means vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha is also anādi. Isn't it? Tad upādhehe anādittvāt. Now since now the upādhi is also anādi, beginningless, anādehe nāṣah na ishyate. How can something which is beginningless be destroyed, can have end? Understand the question. Student is saying, you see, somehow the Supreme Self is considering itself to be jiva. Agreed. Agreed. Somehow. I am not, by delusion or by any other reason. Okay, somehow. But this feeling that I am jiva is beginningless. And because jiva bhava is included in upādhi, the upādhi is also beginningless. And something which is beginningless, how can it have an end? No, but this question is not clear. Explain further. I will explain. Ataha asya jīvabhāvo'pi. Next verse. Therefore, its jīvabhāva, its feeling that it is individual, is also anādi. Nitya bhavati samsritihi. Because of which samsritihi, samsara, will become eternal, will have no end. Why are you saying like this? I just now explained to you that beginningless cannot have an end. Jiva is beginningless. It will not have an end. If jiva bhava doesn't end, na nivarteta, if it is not ending, it doesn't cease, moksha katham. How can I ever get liberated? Why? Because there was no time in the past when I was liberated. I have always been bound. Why? Because jiva is anadi. I have always been bound. How can I be liberated? Understand the question. What is he trying to say? He says, you see, first explain to me, okay? Let us understand this question in a little broader way. This concept of bondage is for whom? For me. For me means whom? For the self, for the jiva, for the body, for whom? For the jiva. The self cannot have bondage. Body doesn't have any feeling. So it is for jiva. Okay, fine. The jiva is in bondage. Okay, fine. Who has to get liberated? Jiva has to get liberated. But jiva is beginningless. Which means what? From the beginningless time, I have always been jiva. Means what? I have always been bound. Then he says, that which is beginningless, how can it end? And because jiva bhava is beginningless, the feeling that I am jiva is beginningless, it will be remaining all the time. It will not cease. Nanivarteta. And if that jiva bhava does not cease, how will I get liberated? Katham me moksha Shri Guru Vada. Oh teacher, please tell me this. Are you getting the question? Now, you see, there are many such questions that arise. Earlier also we saw, and now also we are seeing that the self has no bondage, therefore no concept of liberation. Okay. Jiva was always bound. And moksha is what? When jiva is not there. Isn't it? End of jiva bhava is what we are calling as moksha. Now the question comes, who gets moksha? If you say jiva gets moksha, let me tell you that jiva is not there when moksha comes. Because end of jiva bhava is moksha. If you say the self gets moksha, self doesn't have to get moksha, self is ever liberated. So, bondage, I have always been. Moksha is for nobody. Am I going to get liberated or not? Please tell me, is there moksha or not? Okay, now, so, and how he is framing the question is, he is saying, you see, jiva, somehow the self has come to feel that it is jiva. And this jiva you have included in the vijñānaMāyāḥ kosha, and jiva being anadi, now this upadhi of vijñānaMāyāḥ also has become anadi, because jiva is anadi. And anything that is anadi, beginningless, nasha naishyate, cannot have end. So jiva bhava also is anadi. Upadhi is also anadi. Therefore samsara is also anadi. And it will also mean that since jiva bhava is not going to end, samsara also will not end. Nanivarteta. If samsara will not end, katham me moksha. Moksha katham me. How will I get liberated? Shri Guru Vada. Oh teacher, please tell. Now what? The teacher replies. The teacher is going to explain that answer from verses 194 to 206. Let us start the answer. We will see how many verses we can complete. We will complete today. Shri Guru Ruvacha, the teacher spoke. What? Let us read. Verse number 194. Samyak prishtam tvaya vidvan. Savadhanena tachrunu. Pramaniki na bhavati. Bhrantya mohita kalpana. सम्यक् पृष्टं त्वया विद्वन् सावधानेन तच्छृणु प्रामाणिकी न भवति भ्रान्त्या मोहितकल्पना. Hey Vidwan, O learned one. Why learned one? You have asked such a pertinent question. You are indeed a learned one. O student, O learned one. Tvaya samyak prishtam. A brilliant question is asked by you. You have asked very well. Savadhanena tachrunu. Now listen to the answer carefully. Why? Because you have asked a good question. Now listen to the answer also carefully. What is the answer? Pramaniki na bhavati. Bhrantya mohita kalpana. Mohita kalpana. The imagination that is conjured up, that is created by what? Bhrantya. By delusion. Brahmaniki na bhavati is not real. What? The imagination conjured up by delusion, created by delusion, is not real. Is this the answer? Yes, this is the answer. But my question was something else only. I asked you, since jīvabhāva is beginningless, samsara is beginningless, and because it is beginningless, it will not end. And if it will not end, how will I get moksha? And you are telling whatever is imagined by delusion is not real. What are you trying to say? You see, we have a concept called everything that has a beginning has an end. Do we have this concept or not? Jātasya hi dhruvo mrityu. That which has started at a particular time will have an end. Now, it will look like that which has not started in time will not end. Because that which has a start will have an end. Therefore, which doesn't have a start will have no end. This logic is correct, but that logic is true when the thing is real. A real thing that has no beginning will have no end. But an imaginary thing which has no beginning will have an end. Example. There is a rope. You are seeing it as snake. Okay? Since when have you got that misunderstanding of snake? Don't say when I looked at rope. Because 1 second before you looked at rope also you did not know rope. 2 seconds before, 5 minutes before, 2 hours before, 2 years before, 2 janmas before also, you had not seen that rope as rope. Because if you had seen that rope as rope, you will never see it as snake. So the ignorance of the rope and therefore the imagination of snake is beginningless, but is not endless. The moment you see the rope, snake ends. Do you have date of birth for that snake? For the real snake, there will be date of birth. But the snake that you have imagined on the rope doesn't have date of birth. Careful. Careful. In a cave, there is darkness. Since when? Since always. Always. It is not that earlier there was light and then darkness came. No. The moment cave was there, darkness was there inside the cave. It is beginningless, but is it endless? No. The moment you put on a light, the darkness goes away. Titikaka, remember? Titikaka example, remember? Titikaka. Titikaka, what is Titikaka? That lake on some mountain, highest lake on the mountain. Now, before you knew about the Titikaka, that ignorance of Titikaka was beginningless. but that beginningless ignorance ended. So everything that is beginningless will not necessarily be endless. Actually speaking, everything that is imagined will have to end when you see the reality. So by saying that bhrantya mohita kalpana pramaniki na bhavati, the imagination conjured up by delusion is not real. What is Shankaracharya hinting to? Shankaracharya is saying, oh my dear, everything that you are saying is beginningless. You said jīvabhāvo is beginningless, agreed. You said because of that upadhi is beginningless, agreed. Because of that you said samsara is beginningless, agreed. But all three of them are only imaginations. Jiva is an imagination, is not actually there. Upadhi is an imagination, is not actually there. Samsara is an imagination and is not actually there. Therefore, moksha is possible. And what is moksha? Moksha is understanding that all these things are imagined and not real. That is moksha. So by saying bhrantya mohita kalpana pramaniki na bhavati, he is also given the knowledge that you understand that this is only bhrantya mohita kalpana and it will never be real. You will get moksha. Okay? Getting it? Okay? He further explains in the first verse, if you have not understood. Now he goes on explaining how that self is actually not connected with the world at all. It only appears that it is connected. Bandha is not real. Jīvabhāvo is not real. Samsara is not real. And therefore it can end when you see the reality. Okay, that is the answer. We will continue in the next session. Sufficient for today. Okay. Chalo. We will conclude. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.